Welcome to Friends with Fertility, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of fertility, reproductive health, and all the emotional journeys that are in between. I'm your host, Elizabeth King, a fertility expert dedicated to providing you with the knowledge, support, and inspiration you need on your path to parenthood. Whether you're just starting out, exploring your options, or looking for solidarity and advice, we are here for you. Let's embark on this journey together and turn uncertainty into empowerment and make friends with fertility. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to Friends with Fertility. We have Lori Bregman here today. She is a seasoned doula, life coach, and author of the Doula Deck, Mamaste, and the Mindful Mom to Be. She is also the co-founder of Prega, an on-demand doula support service and serves as a doula in residence at Needed. With over 26 years of experience, Lori specializes in guided expectant and new mothers through their personal transformation from fertility through pregnancy, birth, and into early stages of motherhood. Known for her mind, body, spirit approach, she integrates coaching, mindfulness, and holistic wellness into her life coaching and doula practice. She is sought after globally for her unique ability to develop, support, nurture, and empower women and families through every part of their journey into parenthood and beyond. Thank you so much for being here, Lori. I cannot wait to have this conversation.
Me too. Thanks for having me.
And I know for those that are listening who are on their fertility journey, they're probably thinking, why are we talking to a doula now? And I assure you, you will want to know this information, mainly because almost everybody that I coach doesn't know really what a doula is and why they need one and how important it is. And I will emphasize even more so important if you've been on a fertility journey, in my opinion, just based on the mental health and all the other things that go through it along with the journey. So tell us, how did you get into this industry 26 years ago?
I kind of stumbled into it. I was always drawn to working with pregnant women and children and moms, and I was doing basically body work, massage, energy work, and teaching yoga. And through one of my trainings, somebody said, there's a doula training. And 26 years ago, nobody knew what a doula was. I didn't even know what it. I was like, all right, I'm just learning everything, so I might as well take that. And
Right.
I stumbled upon this class, and I didn't do really anything with it at first. No. But like about a year or two after I took the doula training, every single one of my girlfriends got pregnant. So I was like, I'll be your doula. And, I didn't know what I was doing because back then you take a weekend training. And so I just it was like the Wild West. And I got thrown into this world, and it just, 26 years later, over 1,600 births, I figured I learned some good techniques.
Yes, definitely. And you mentioned the holistic approach in your bio. Tell us about that, because I think that's different for everybody. But what does that mean to you?
Holistic means mind, body, spirit to me. And that's what I really think of myself as, a mind, body, spirit support throughout the journey, from, whether it's fertility, as you do this, that people go through so much emotionally. Especially there's that spiral that can happen, when they keep trying, and it just, I work with a lot of that. Mostly my work is more once they get pregnant, and I usually get booked the second they pee on a stick.
Right. That's how I was with my night nurses. As soon as I knew I was pregnant, I was like, I need you. And this is the expected date. Of course, on some of those cases, unfortunately, it didn't always work out, but that was the call that I made.
Yeah, and that's what people do with me. And I won't take a deposit till after 12 weeks and all that stuff. But they have me for the support. And I know that first trimester of the waiting and getting to a certain point can be anxiety producing and cause a lot of fear. So it's just nice to have that support during that time. Yeah. And so holistic means, it's a whole body mind approach where I blend doula work, life coaching, nutrition. I help build teams. I really do a lot of childbirth education, and I do coaching a lot with the big transformation they go through. I always say, before they're pregnant, they were this caterpillar, knowing change is coming, kind of sensing a change or wanting a change. And then they go into this cocoon where parts of them start to shed away and new parts get built, the wings really. And then they come out and they're the emerging butterfly where they hang on the cocoon for a while, the postpartum period. And then they fly completely different. And so I don't just help people birth babies, I help them also birth themselves as mothers.
Which is such an important role, I think, again, from, I would say, not even 26 years ago, but more importantly now too, because people are having children so much older. So you're so much more into your identity of who you think you are and all of that stuff to have this gigantic change. You
Yeah.
really do need some help to figure out, how do I navigate this? Especially if you have been building a business or something that's kept you from having children younger, you probably really identify strongly as one other area in your life. And so to disconnect from that, not fully, but try to figuring out, how do I manage this? It really is helpful to have somebody to bounce that off of and talk through the feelings that you're feeling, because that's also coupled with hormones that are the physiological part of your body that's happening. Because I know for myself, I thought, oh, I'm just stressed with work because I didn't take time off with any of my kids, which I don't recommend. But I also thought that's just what it was. And then in hindsight, I was like, oh my gosh, I think I did have some postpartum depression. I just thought it was stress because of everything going on, having 3 kids, yada, yada. But really, now I know better to say that. But even being in it, being a doula myself, being, all the things, I wish I had that person to be like, hey, something's not right here. This isn't just normal stress. So how do you help moms that are in it to decipher what's just regular situational, stress or whatever they may be going through versus what's related to the transition of being a mom, whether they're pregnant or the baby has come, into that 4th trimester that we like to say? Because I think sometimes we can't see the forest from the trees when we're in it.
Yeah, I think everybody's journey is different. So what might stress me out might not be what stresses you out, or what scares me might not be what scares you. So I really work on that individual, and really get to know that person in front of me, and also normalize it. I think just normalizing that you can be excited and scared at the same time. You can grieve your old life and be excited for the new. Like there is, and also look at what's coming up for them, because whatever's showing up during when they're trying to conceive or pregnant is the little stuff they need to help better parent that child, or for their next level as motherhood, whether it's trusting or letting go of control, or being patient, or it's whatever it is coming up, it's preparing them.
And I say for myself too, you don't know what you don't know until you're in it. So having somebody to guide you and put the flashlight down the road that's pitch black is really helpful. And I think now with the access to doulas and people to help us along the way, I think it's become more normalized. Whereas before it was like, I felt it was the hippies that had doulas and lactation consultants and all these people. And now it's like, I tell everybody, get your doula lined up, get your lactation consultant, everybody ahead of time. Because when you're in it and you need to find somebody urgently, it's off the charts of like desperation of I need help right away. And it's hard to find the help when you're right there in it. So
Yeah.
when do you suggest for people to start? I mean, you said that people reach out to you when they are pregnant, but when do you actually start working with them?
Well, I think all of us doulas work differently. I like to get the people right when they're pregnant, because it builds that way. I have this whole like long time to build deep relationship, and I do feel the more supported they are during their pregnancy, um, the better they feel, the better, and I can help educate them and do all this stuff and just support them. The better their birth goes, the better the postpartum goes. It's like a domino effect. And especially if they were going through fertility stuff, whether it was IVF or trying for a while, that first trimester is there's a lot that comes up. Um, Especially if people have had miscarriage or anything, it's kind of like they're always waiting for that other shoe to drop. And then they feel guilty because they're not connecting with the baby. And it's like helping them normalize that. Like, yeah, you've had a lot of loss, and just kind of like having that compassion and, just letting them have their feelings and being there for them. And something else I want to say to you, because you brought this up, that a lot of my clients are older. Like, I have a girl that just hired me that's 50 years old, and she's having a baby. And I think that with medicine the way it is today, like 35 is considered geriatric, and I hate that word because you can really look at that individual. And I have 25-year-olds that really, if I did blood work on them and all that stuff, some of them would be like a 40-year-old. And then I have some 40-year-olds that are like 20-year-olds. And I think to treat everybody the same is not. So if anything, especially if you've gone through IVF or done a lot of that stuff, having a doula to bring some normalcy where body's not being taken over with medicine at this point, where it's like you can drop in and have your feelings and prepare for something, and somebody is going to empower you and kind of connect you back into your body and what you're capable of, and remind you of that. I think is, somebody's your cheerleader and believes in you and trusts you and trusts birth. And I think it's important to have it around especially when you've gone through that to get pregnant.
I agree. Somebody who's confident and knowledgeable in the situation when you may be shaky about it, right? It's like the rock that you need when you're not certain about things that are coming up, I think is so important.
Yeah.
What is the biggest change that you've seen over the years with being a doula, whether it's people choosing different things at birth or having their birth plan or whatever? What is the biggest change that you've seen over the years?
I've seen more and more people wanting to go unmedicated, especially when they do IVF, and because they felt their body was so overtaken by medicine and it was so clinical that they want to like reconnect. They felt disconnected from their body, and they want to like just like feel something, and reclaim their body and not be numb anymore, and just have this more spiritual experience, I guess I would say.
I always say God bless to those women because that's a lot to go through.
Yeah, it's not for everybody, but I see more and more of that.
Yes.
And more home births. And then also I'm seeing, since the pandemic, the medical world has changed. They're really inducing everybody, overtaking people's bodies and taking a lot of choices away from people. And I know that people...
Why do you think that is since the pandemic?
I think it's the pandemic, and then I think it's also insurance. It's like these doctors are underpaid, overworked, and they found a way. If we just induce everybody, we can get our office hours in. We can get home, get some sleep, and it's sometimes not always they say it's at the best interest, but it's not always, because if somebody does want to have an unmedicated birth or labor at home and go to the hospital when they're like 6 centimeters, and then get an epidural, that's out the window. And then these women have trauma because and I always say birth is not scripted. It's unpredictable. You have to be open to everything, but you should always have an intention. And so I think that's been I've been seeing a lot more birth trauma.
Which is so sad to say, because I think that's already you're going into a situation that's unknown, which could be traumatic, right? And then if you feel that you have zero control or your doctor's not on your team, so to speak, then I would say find out those questions right away when you get to an OB. So if you've gone through a fertility journey, they usually graduate you at around 12 weeks. Now it's earlier, again, since the pandemic, it's usually like 8 weeks now. But ask them if that's what you want. What is their opinion on this? Do they induce? Of course, usually for people that have gone through IVF, they generally take it 39 weeks. But I've also seen people that say they don't want to do that and their doctors are fine with that. So really make sure that you're in alignment with your doctor before you go down this road, because it is so critical to make sure that you feel good about it, especially if you are older and you're going to have more appointments, you're going to be seeing these people a lot, and they're going to have a big role, whether it's the midwife, the doctor, the doula, everybody involved. I cannot stress enough, make sure that you feel super good about who your care is in.
I completely agree. That's probably one of the best. The first thing I'm like, before you even get pregnant, do your research. Like, don't do who. Some doctors will like refer other doctors because they want to kick back. And I think doulas are really good because we know what who to run from and who to go to. And I feel like part of the stuff I do is I help build a team, and it's more about what's going to align with their intentions and who the personality is and like what their needs are. And it's not, I don't
Right.
gain anything from it other than wanting them to feel supported. Um,
Right. And I think I come from the same mentality. And I have seen, though, this kind of influx of younger doctors that are more open to different things and open to conversation rather than, not, no offense to the old school, but it was very much like, this is how we're doing it. And there's really no room for in between. And the patients now are coming much more educated than they ever have been before too. So I always say to the doctors, like, get ready, because it's no longer a passive conversation from patients, at least that I work with, because they're so
yeah,
educated.
mine too. And also that's what I was seeing is like saying people are waking up. They're wanting to take their power back. They don't, you know what I mean? And that's what I'm really seeing a lot is, and you can still, to me, you can still have an empowering birth. It's like, I just want somebody to be, I want them to be heard, their choices, to know that they have choice and options and that they're respected and supported and not to be gaslit or feel bad about anything, because this is a day that they're never going to have again. Even if you have more kids, it's never going to be that day. And so many people spend so much money on and time investing in their wedding, and they get the dress, they get the cake, they get the photographer, they get the flowers, the venue, all this stuff, and the ring, and then they have beautiful memories and a photograph, but the birth's going to stay with you for the rest of your life and imprint your baby. And really, and you have to be careful with who you surround yourself with, because as doulas, we're like, you got this. And, I support you in your choice. I'll never make a choice for anybody, but I'll help them make the choice that feels right for them. And, and you have to be careful because you're becoming this mother, and people can get into your head. And if I was to say, you're doing this wrong, or that's a bad choice, how could they trust themselves as a mother if the doctors are like, no, that's not a good choice, or this isn't a good choice? And obviously there's times to induce, there's times to have a C-section, and thank God for that. There's modern medicine's amazing, saves people's lives, and there's amazing doctors out there that are really supportive. And
But
then
even still, I think understanding the full reason of why you're doing what you're doing is really important, because I didn't have a choice to have the type of birth that I wanted, but I understood fully why those decisions were being made. So I think that that's important too. If you have any question about, well, what does that mean? And could this possibly change? And whatever, even having a doula to help you to ask the right questions if you're uncertain on that is really helpful,
that's right.
because you might not have a choice. I didn't have a choice with any of my births. And it was the way that it was because of medical reasons. But I felt confident in knowing why every decision was being made for the health of myself and the baby. So I think, like you said, everybody's situation is different. But my client that was 51 just had a baby last month, and she had a natural childbirth. So it's not, it doesn't matter if somebody says, oh, it's because you're over 40 or it's because you had IVF. No, it doesn't actually. And that's why it's so important that you have a doctor that listens and is on your team.
Yeah. And I think with social media, there's some great things about social media and not great things, but I think it's opening up people's eyes because it's so in your face about like the options that you do have, what things that can go on, it's just, there's a lot on there. TikTok. I mean, if I hear one of my clients text me and say, well, I found this thing on TikTok and I learned this thing on TikTok, and I'm like, it's so funny. But and we have the internet at our fingertips, and it just sometimes that can also be really overwhelming for
I
people.
agree.
They're trying to make choices.
And that can cause trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen, right? Like you can't unsee things that you see there. So if somebody is having a bad experience, which I think most of the time on social media, they're not saying, "Oh my God, this was amazing. This was so easy and it was so cool and my pregnancy was," it's the people that are complaining or had something go wrong that are sharing about it most of the time. And I think that that alone imprints trauma to us. So be super careful in your time on those platforms when you're going through this stage.
I always tell my clients, like I remember a couple of my clients after birth, they're like, I would do this again. I love my birth. And I'm like, oh girl, shout it from the rooftops.
Yes.
And you know what they say? And it's so sad. Oh, no, 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 I don't want to brag. I mean, it's like, I feel like I'm bragging. I'm like, brag, brag.
Yeah.
You need to hear this because you can have beautiful births. And it's your baby's birthday. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
especially if you've gone through a lot of fertility stuff. It's like, oh my God, it's finally here, the day. Like you
Yeah.
get to meet what you've been working so hard for and wanting for so long. It's like, you really have to change that attitude. And for every horrible birth story, there's a positive one. And
A million positive ones per every negative, I think.
yes,
And it's just who they choose to focus on and the story they choose to focus, I think, is really kind of what needs to shift. But I agree, like scream it loud for everybody to hear, because yes, I'm happy to share my story with people who want to hear, but I want to hear all the good ones, like my mom's stories that like they all just slipped right out of her body and it was so easy, and like
yeah.
that's awesome. No drugs, no nothing. We need more of that, so that level of anxiety, I think, can start to diminish and people can go back to feeling confident about, okay, people have been doing this for a million years or more and I got this, right?
Yeah.
Rather than all the trauma that's happening. What's the advice that you give somebody who's maybe gone through some fertility and they're now pregnant and starting to look at, okay, who is a team that I need to have around me for my birth?
I would start saying, I know it's early and you probably don't want to get too ahead of yourself because you're just like pregnant and you're trying to get through the first trimester. But have you ever thought about your birth intentions? And some of them are really clear. I want an unmedicated birth. Like, I want an intervention for you. Like, they're very clear. They're just like, some people are like, I don't know, I haven't really educated myself yet. And some are like, I definitely want an epidural and, and all that kind of stuff. How do you feel about being induced? I ask a lot of questions, and I always have them interview with a few people. And I'll give them names that I feel are right. I have a lot of doctors I work with, and, some that I wouldn't work with, but I feel like, that I wouldn't pick as my doctor, but for them, they'd be perfect.
Right.
And so I'm like, I think you guys would really like blah, 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 Check them out. Let me know what you think. And they're like, well, who would you use? I'm like, it doesn't matter. I'm not you. And this is something I say all the time because it's like, they're like, what are your clients? Who do most of your clients go to? I'm like, it doesn't matter who they go to. Like, you have to pick the one that you're going to feel comfortable with and that you like and feel good around.
100%. There's some doctors I recommend that people hate and others that they love and vice versa. And it just depends on if you align with them. And you're interviewing them, I think, is really also so important for people to know. Like, just because you go meet with them or you have a consult with them doesn't mean that you have to stay with them or that's going to be your doctor.
And I would do it before you even get pregnant. Like, the other thing is, like, start really thinking about visualizing how you, in a perfect world, you see yourself birthing. And if you don't know, like, start educating yourself. It's never too early to educate yourself. And that's something that I do with my clients a lot is I go deep into education.
How would you suggest that they start to educate themselves around birthing?
I would start like reading books. I'd start if they wanted to take like a great like class on like there's so many online classes they can take now about birthing. I have a lot of people that are not pregnant that come on my Mindful Mom to Be group coaching program because they know they're going to get pregnant and they just want to like kind of bask in the pregnancy energy and just kind of like learn all the information so they have it all for when the time's right, and ready.
Which I think is great because when you are in it, there's so much information and so much going on that like you almost don't hear everything that you need to hear. So if you're getting it ahead of time, I feel like you can process what you need to process beforehand, right? Like if I'm in it, my mind is going a million miles an hour on other things too, rather than, okay, no, I've heard this before. I kind of know what to expect.
Yeah, I have a lot of clients that did run through fertility, and they were like, "Oh, when I was trying to conceive, I read like Ina May's Guide to Childbirth, and I read this book, and I read that book." And I'm like, "Wow, you really started." They're like, "Oh yeah, I've always wanted to give birth, and I'm so excited about it." Um, and I'm like, "This is great. You're really educated." And they know. They're very clear on their intentions. And
Right.
it's very easy for me to align them with the right care provider.
That's amazing.
Hmm.
I was not that way. I was not somebody who had thought about any of that other than the fact that I knew that I didn't think I could withstand any of the pain. So I always was somebody who thought, okay, if I ever went through this, I'm sure I would be wanting to be medicated. But I think it's really beautiful for the people who know, and I have a lot of clients that are too. I've always wanted to be a mom, and that was never my story. So I can't relate to that. But that if you are that, there's so many resources now that you can dive into, even if you're not a mom yet, to learn, which is so awesome. So tell everybody about all the different products that you do have, how they can learn from you, all the goodness.
Yeah, so you talked about my books. I have the Mindful Mom to Be, Mamaste, and the Doula Deck. I have
How
a
do those all differ?
Mindful Mom to Be. I wrote like 15 years ago, and it's like each chapter is a theme that you work on for the month, and then I give you all these holistic remedies, and just kind of like it's really about like giving you the tools a little bit. Like being present might be something you work on one month, or little planting little seeds, and then there's holistic remedies, yoga, breath work, like all the different things in there.
Okay.
Mama Stay is it was interesting because I was seeing at the time I wrote the book a lot of like mom bashing and mom shaming and gossip and judgment, and this person's doing it wrong because they're not doing it my way. And I was just like, and then I always like work, like I said, in that bio individuality, like let me look at who you are. And so I started kind of realizing there was like 5 kind of different types of moms, I would call them. Some type A, fear-based, more like they were like the vulnerable moms, a little bit more. We all have them within us. And some were more rebellious, some were a little bit more detached or disconnected because of like if it going through maybe massive fertility stuff, they just needed to like disassociate a little bit.
Right.
Um, and then there's the flow mama, which is kind of like I'm neither here nor there. I kind of just go with the flow. They don't stand strong in their conviction. We have all of them. And then we can learn when you realize that this person is like you, or there's usually something inside, like that you have this in you too. And even though they're handling parenting this way, maybe like the type A, getting stuff done, it might be the lowest part of your list if you take the test, but it's something that you probably need to integrate. And if you could integrate it, you won't judge that other person as much. If that makes sense. And it was kind of
Yeah.
like, because usually what we see in another, we have within, and it's something that we're not comfortable with. Um,
Right.
or, you have to really sit with that when you get triggered by somebody else. And then my doula deck is, it's a deck, and the first part is for pregnancy, second part's for birth, the third part's for postpartum. And basically, you just kind of pick a card when you feel like you need a little support, whether
Fun.
it's just like a word of affirmation, journal prompt, some breath work, uh, you know, just some like little things that you can do for just to put that oxygen mask on yourself when you
I
feel,
love those. I love any sort of card deck.
yeah.
That's fun.
Um, I have the Prega app, which is online doula care. For we do everything. We don't give medical advice, but we will like always like if you're going through something, you jump on there and just send us a text, and we'll text you. It's not what I like about it is real people in real time. It's not AI. It's us talking to you, And then we can always we jump on video calls with you if you need anything you need, birth prep, we do it all with you. I also have the Mindful Mom to Be, which is a 10-week virtual group coaching program. That the first part, we work mindful practices, nutrition. The second part's all about birth. Third part's all about postpartum. I have experts come on all the time, like midwives, doctors, nutritionists, holistic pediatricians, like anything. So the people that are in class, it's very interactive, so you can ask questions. And you get a WhatsApp group chat, emails jam-packed with information.
Amazing.
And then I have there's a lot of ways you can work with me. I have my big thing that I do is my transformation into motherhood. It's a virtual doula coaching program that I do with people probably like everywhere in the world. And it comes with all the birth prep. I'm there virtually the day of to consult and help them jump on whenever they need. They have my support throughout the pregnancy. I'll always jump on call with them whenever they need. Text me with anything they need. It's just all that kind of stuff. And then I also do coaching, which really helps them. We really look at that while they're in the cocoon, becoming, and what they're letting go of, and what they're, so that transition, they navigate that transition. And you're right, when you're older, there's been a big gap. So you have a lot of life in between. And so
Right.
it is a bigger transition. And it's also a lot of integration you have to do. However, you're also like very, solid in your being.
Right.
So it's like that transitions. It's new, but it's also you're so ready. I'd say when you're older too.
Right. Someone asked me one time, what is it like to be an older mom? I'm like, I don't know any different. This is all I know. I have no reference point. But yes, there's definite positives and others to the situation, I would say. Yeah. Well, all of those products that you have and offerings sound amazing. Why didn't I not know about you 7-8 years ago when I was going through it? I would have been all over all of this stuff. Yeah. I wish. I felt like I was aged out of everyone else having kids. So nobody was having these conversations that I knew, So I felt going into it super blind of like, why isn't anyone talking about this? And why didn't anybody tell me about this or that or whatnot? So I cannot recommend enough following Lori, learning about what you feel, to the degree that you feel that you need the knowledge. But I will guarantee you what you don't know, you're going to need to know, and you're going to want to know later. And you'll wish you would have known. If you don't, you won't regret it at all.
I think a woman armed with like knowledge is powerful.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yes. So what's the best way that people can find you and follow you and learn from you?
My Instagram's Lbreggy, LBREGGY. My website is LoriBregman.com. I started a new Substack. I think it's Lbreggy, where I'm just sharing a lot. But I really do post a lot on my Instagram. That's very
okay.
That's kind of like I share a lot with writing because and stuff. I hate the noise sometimes. It's so noisy on there that I'm like, oh my God, everybody stop. Just like let me look at a pretty picture and read something that's inspiring and gonna make me feel good. Yeah.
Right. Well, I love all that you're doing, and thank you for holding the space for so many women and so many babies to come to this earth. That's such a gift that you have. That's so cool to be part of that. And I love your analogy of the butterfly and all of the butterflies behind you that just kind of pull it all together with everything you're doing. So thanks so much for being here and sharing your information.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Friends with Fertility. We hope that you found the stories, insights, and tips as inspiring and informative as we did. Remember, you are not alone on this journey. Your friends with fertility are here for you. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to follow us on social media for updates and more fertility resources. Until next time, stay hopeful and keep believing in your journey, and know that we are sending you lots of love.